Rev up your engines! Coro says, Scotty's a phenomenon. I was scared of him when he came across as suggested, but I'm happy I stuck it out and watched him. I admit it, I use tricky titles just to mislead you to learn something. Americans don't want to learn things. They really don't. They want to be entertained, right? So I'll entertain you, but I'll teach you something at the same time, because there's a lot of stuff that you need to know so you don't get ripped off. You don't want to buy the wrong car. You don't want to buy the wrong parts. Maybe they're really cheap and they don't work right. Or maybe they're really expensive and a lower price one will work fine. I'm here to tell you all this stuff. I've been fixing cars since I was 14 years old. Learned from my grandfather. He was a master mechanic. The only hassle my father had with my grandfather, my father ran the shop, my grandfather was the chief mechanic, was he kept saying, Dad, you don't charge enough money. I got overhead here, right? My grandfather just liked helping out people. And so do I. I'm even better than my grandfather. I don't charge you anything. I get a penny when you watch one of my videos. So it's worth a penny, you know? You can help me out with a few pennies here and there. Right? Stephen Lotzko said, Scotty, do you think Nissan made a good move switching to the new 1.5-liter variable compression turbo engines in the new Nissan Rogues? Do you think they're better than their 2021 2.5 liters? I think it's a step backwards. Now, technologically speaking, oh yes, they're a marvel of engineering. They have the variable compression engine so that the pistons can move various distances. So it's not a set compression ratio like all other cars are. But what that means, instead of the piston being on a connecting rod that goes to the crank that's one piece, they now cantilever, and there's another piece, and there's hydraulic, electronic controls, so sometimes the pistons go the whole way to the top, sometimes they don't go quite as far. This is all controlled by computers. What could possibly go wrong with that? Let me tell you, what amazes me, and if you ask any other real mechanics and even engineers, these stupid things, they spend so much money designing these variable compression engines, supposedly so you get better gas mileage and stuff. These stupid things only get like 1.5 miles a gallon better gas mileage than a conventional engine. It turns out that it didn't do all that well. It's like, if you remember back in the day, Mazda came out with those Wankel rotary engines. And the thing was, Wankel rotary engines could run on anything. And they showed they ran on perfume, they ran on white moonshine, they could run on anything. And they were tiny little engines. There was only one problem. All the Wankel rotary engines were tremendous gas hogs. And these things were getting in the teens. They're getting 12, 11 miles a gallon. They were gas hogs. And it turns out that these variable compression engines aren't that efficient. Now, that's now, as they're new and they're running. Imagine as they age and these things break down. Nobody's going to know how to fix the things. And I guarantee you they're going to break. Nissan's always having a problem with their new technology. And when those things start to break down and you get an engine that's broken and it's that complex, you're going to wish you never bought that in the first place. And they just started doing it this year. So time's going to tell. Another year or two, we'll see. And I'll bet you I'm right about it. If not, I'll admit it. If I never see them breaking, they don't say, wow, Nissan, I'll make a video. Nissan really hit the nail on the head with this engine. But I'm not going to make that until they've been out a couple of years and we'll see what happens. Dawson fam says, Scotty, hi from Grimsby, UK. Great Britain. I want to import a used real American SUV. What make and model you recommend from the 2000s? All right. Well, even in the 2000s, real doesn't mean real American. I just did a video on an F-150 and it said something like USA and Canada parts, 44%. Then it said so many from Mexico, and then it said others, like 17%. The parts come from all over the world. And they've been doing that for quite some time. But if you want to get a real American SUV, if you can find one, a Ford Explorer that has the V8 engine. The 6-cylinder engines, nah. But I had customers with those Ford Explorers, the V8s that were 250, 100,000 miles, still running fine. Those V8 engines were strong. They had better transmissions, better suspension systems. Those V8 Explorers were actually quite interesting. They didn't sell all that many of them, but that's what I'd look for if you wanted, because they last. They're well made. They're not like the 6s. That's what you can look at. But even back in the 2000s, if I was getting an SUV, I'd get a Toyota or a Lexus. Richard says, Scotty, I bought a 7-year-old Honda Pilot 14 model with 37,000 miles. But I drive it now in Africa, lots of bumpy roads. You think it'll last 200,000 miles. All right, well, I just watched those Grand Tour guys. I love them, those 3 English guys. And they went to this thing in Africa where it was horrendous. I mean, the roads are falling apart. If they're that bad, I doubt if it'll last 200,000 miles. Things are going to break. If you're driving giant ruts and holes and there's boulders in the road, your vehicle's going to fall apart. I had a guy the other day, and this shocked me. He came with a Chevy Malibu. It's like an '07, 460,000 miles on it. And I'm like, I don't believe it. Till I watched the guy. Well, it turns out, he drives 550 miles every day on a highway. He delivered radioactive isotopes to hospitals and stuff for doing testing for cancer and stuff and for trying to cure stuff, right? And they're in lead-lined boxes. He stuck them in a trunk, put a little bottom on it to make it stronger. But hey, all that mileage. I would never see that in Impala that was on really crappy roads or stop-and-go city traffic. But he was doing 550 miles every day on the highway, and it still ran okay. Still had the original transmission and engine. But you're the other way. You're driving on really crappy roads, so there's no saying how long something's going to last. Just keep airing your tires. Try to stay away from the giant boulders ripping the bottom of your car off and shredding holes in your tires. Good luck on that one. Freebird said, should I restore a 2002 Jeep Wrangler Sahara or buy a new one? Definitely, if you want a Jeep, restore the old ones. In 2002, they were making them a lot better than they're making them today. Mercedes-Benz bought them, and they were actually making better vehicles. But then Mercedes lost so much money, they said, then a holding company bought it and sold it to Fiat. The Italians got suckered into it, right? Now, Fiat Chrysler, Stellantis, which was Peugeot, the French company, and now you got the three stooges. You got Chrysler, Fiat, and Peugeot, French companies. Not good things happen. I would not buy a new one. You got an old one. They were better made in 2002 by quite a bit. I would restore it. I would not buy a new one. John Rod, who says, Scotty owns a Tesla. No, I don't own a Tesla. I'm not going to buy a Tesla. Now, I did get a Land Rover, though. I did. Here it is. It's a watch. Now, this watch is made from a piece of a Land Rover. One of these sales gimmick things. So if you have a man who has everything, including Land Rover, you can get him a Land Rover watch that's made in Switzerland. Well, as you can see, unfortunately, like the Land Rover, it's not running at the moment. It stopped because it's old school. You got to wind it up, right? Well, I'm a mechanic. Do you see too many mechanics wearing watches? No, you don't, because you can get them wrapped on something. It could short electricity out and then burn you. So I very rarely wear a watch, but it's a good conversation starter. You've got a Land Rover. I've got one too, and it's right here. And then you show it up. The only part that's a Land Rover, though, is the face, which comes from the hood. This particular one is called Beach Runner, and it was made European photographer. His hood went bad, and they gave him a new hood, and they took his old hood, and they cut it into pieces and made watches out of him. So, crazy world, yes. Pretty gets us. How do you tighten a 2018 Camry foot-operated parking brake? All right. You'll find that in the back is where you tighten. Jack the back of the car up, put jack stands so it doesn't turn you into a pancake if it falls. There's a lock nut and a nut. You loosen the lock nut, and then you tighten the nut. And what that does is it tightens up the cables. There's just one tightener for both sides. You'll see it in the back and the middle. Jack it up, you see, it's not hard to get to. Now, from my experience with Toyotas, a lot of times you really don't need to tighten them up. If you find that it's getting loose, take your rear wheels off. You probably find you need a brake job. Because rarely do I ever have to anymore ever adjust parking brakes on Toyota products. It's just when they get really high up and they don't catch right, it usually means the rear brakes are starting to wear thin, because Toyota makes those cables so good that they generally don't stretch much, so you don't really need to adjust them. When they actually don't work, pull the rear wheels off. Make sure you got enough pads or shoes and change them then, rather than just keep tightening it up, because if it's real thin, you tighten up and then it works great. Yeah, but you might be real close to the metal, and then one day you start hearing when you step on the brakes, and you got to replace all that metal stuff that's worn out instead of just the inexpensive brake pads or shoes. Do check them every once in a while. Timothy Ryan says, Scotty, what type of water should I mix full-strength coolant with? Distilled, got a 99 F-150. Yeah, you don't want any minerals in it. Now, there was a while that human people were thinking, oh, I'm going to drink distilled water because the water's so polluted around here. People, we drink water, we get minerals. If you drink distilled water, it will actually leach minerals out of your body, like calcium from your bones and stuff. Now, your Ford isn't a living being. It does not want any minerals in the cooling system, because they'll leach up and clog up the cooling system. So you would want pure distilled water. If you could get deionized, it'd be even better. Now, me, I just buy the premix, because they build at the factory. They know that it's clean water they've mixed it with. You pay a little bit more, but then you don't have to hassle with it. And then you always got 50-50. It's like when you're adding coolant and water, how do you know how much each to add? If you add 50-50 coolant water mix already made, that's the mix you want, so you don't care. You just drain it out and pour that stuff in. That simple. Makes it a lot easier, because if you mix the coolant with water, you got to figure out 50-50, and you'd have to have an antifreeze measuring machine that once you're in to see what's happening. But if you add 50-50, you know it's 50-50 the whole time. That makes more sense. So if you never want to miss another one of my new car repair videos, remember to ring that bell.